The morning started like any other in our quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. Birds chirped from the tall oak tree in our backyard, and sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as my wife, Natalie, stirred cream into her coffee. I sat across from her, flipping through the local news on my tablet. It was peaceful. Calm. The kind of ordinary moment you take for granted until everything changes. That change began with an unexpected visit from my Aunt Carla. Carla was my father's younger sister and had always been the kind of person who said exactly what she was thinking. No filter. Growing up, she was a regular fixture at family barbecues and holidays, and though she lived a few towns over, we saw her often enough to consider her part of the everyday fabric of our lives. Natalie liked her well enough, though she always said Carla had a way of making even the most mundane conversation feel like an interrogation. It was a Wednesday afternoon when Carla called and asked if she could stop by. Just for a chat, she said. I didn't think anything of it and told her to come over after lunch. She arrived promptly at 2, wearing a floral blouse and sunglasses too large for her face. Her bright red lipstick was her signature, and her perfume lingered long after she walked past you. Natalie greeted her at the door while I was still rinsing dishes in the kitchen. I could hear their voices, warm but cautious. As soon as they entered the living room, Carla immediately launched into a conversation about her drive, a recent TV show she liked, and the state of her neighbor's overgrown hedges. I dried my hands and joined them, sinking into the recliner with a polite smile. We chatted for a while. Then, as I excused myself to take a work call upstairs, Carla turned to Natalie with a look that suggested she had something serious to share. Natalie told me later that she could feel the shift in the air. Carla leaned forward, hands clasped, and said, I probably shouldn't say this, but I think it's something you should know. Natalie braced herself, not knowing what to expect. I've known Jackson since he was a kid, Carla began, using my full name like she always did when something heavy was about to follow. And there's something he never told you. Not because he's hiding it, but because he's too proud. Too good-hearted to think it matters. But you deserve the whole truth. From that moment, everything changed. Carla proceeded to tell Natalie a story one I had hoped was buried with the past. When I was 20, before I met Natalie, I was engaged to someone else. Her name was Lauren. We'd met in college, fallen quickly, and rushed into a commitment that neither of us was truly ready for. What Carla told Natalie was more than just about Lauren, it was about the way our relationship ended. Lauren and I had been living together in a small apartment near campus. She was ambitious and charming, but over time, our differences became too sharp to ignore. Arguments replaced affection, and we started keeping secrets. One night, I discovered that Lauren had been seeing someone else. It wasn't just a fling, it had been going on for months. Heartbroken, I ended the relationship and moved back in with my parents. I told very few people the full story, and I never brought it up again. Carla, being family, knew the details. But then Carla took it a step further. She reached out to him again, she told Natalie. Just before your wedding. He never told you because he didn't want to ruin anything. He thought it didn't matter anymore. Natalie sat frozen. What do you mean she reached out? She came to me first, Carla explained. She asked if she should talk to him. I told her no. But then she sent him a letter. Handwritten. He never responded, but I know he kept it. Maybe he doesn't even know why. When Natalie told me about this later that night, my stomach dropped. I knew exactly what letter Carla was talking about. I had received it just 3 days before our wedding. It had arrived in a simple white envelope, no return address. I recognized Lauren's handwriting instantly. The letter was full of nostalgia, regret, and vague suggestions that maybe we were meant to find our way back to each other. I didn't reply. I never even told anyone about it. I just folded it and put it in an old box I hadn't opened in years. Natalie wasn't angry, but she was hurt. She felt blindsided. Why didn't you tell me? She asked as we sat on our bed that night. I struggled for words. Because it didn't mean anything. I didn't write back. I didn't want to stir up drama before our wedding. I knew what I wanted us. I never had any doubts. She nodded slowly, absorbing it all. But I could see the shadow it left behind. Over the next few days, things were tense. We still talked, still moved through our routines, but there was a stiffness between us. Carla's words had created a crack that hadn't been there before. Even though I had done nothing wrong, the secret had done damage. One evening, as we sat watching a movie, Natalie paused it and said, "I think I need to read the letter." My heart sank. I had kept it, not because of any lingering feeling, but because throwing it away felt dramatic at the time. Now I wished I'd burned it the moment I opened it. But I nodded and went to retrieve the box. She opened it carefully, unfolding the letter as if it were something sacred. Her eyes scanned the pages, and I watched her face for a sign of how she was taking it. When she finished, she sighed and handed it back. "She was still in love with you," she said. "I don't love her," I said firmly. "I love you. That's never changed." "I believe you," she said. But I needed to see that for myself. After that night, things began to heal. Slowly. We had long talks about honesty and trust. Natalie admitted she felt betrayed, not by my actions, but by the fact that I hadn't trusted her with the full truth. I told her I was afraid of messing things up, that the letter felt like something irrelevant, like a flicker from a life that no longer existed. "But it was real," she said. "Even if it didn't change anything, it was still part of your story." She was right. Carla had forced the truth out into the open, and while I was initially angry at her for interfering, I began to understand her reasons. She didn't want Natalie finding out years later and wondering what else I had kept hidden. Carla had always been blunt, but she wasn't cruel. A few weeks later, we invited Carla over again. This time, the conversation wasn't loaded with secrets or revelations. Just small talk, coffee, and laughter. At one point, Natalie leaned over and thanked her quietly. Carla looked surprised. "You're not mad at me?" she asked. "No," Natalie said. "You told me something I needed to know. And we're stronger for it." It was true. The whole experience, as painful as it had been, deepened our bond. We'd weathered something together. Natalie saw me more completely, and I learned that hiding things, even things that seem harmless, can build walls where there should be none. I eventually got rid of the letter. Not out of guilt, but because I no longer needed it. Its presence wasn't a threat, it was a closed chapter. I didn't want to keep holding on to things that had no place in the life Natalie and I were building together.